1. So I normally enjoy my job. I've been in the industry for 6.5 years and have spent most of that time serving. I bartended for a little over a year before COVID. A couple of weeks ago, I had one of the most confusingly awful tables that I have ever served. They were so awful that I can still remember the whole experience and every item ordered. The foretop comes in and sits in a booth in my section, 2 women, a 12-ish-year-old boy, and a toddler who looked to be around 2, maybe almost 3 years old. The table sits down and I greet them. Before I even get a chance to say my name, they interrupt me and say they need waters for everyone and ask for free rolls. We don't have rolls, but we do have bread and butter that we don't really serve, but I get it for them. I go and get their water, and when I bring them back, the younger of the 2 women says, "Don't you have better high chairs? This one is awful." I tell her we only have that one type of high chair, but we do have booster seats, if she would like to try that out. She seems outraged, and says that booster seats are far too dangerous, and that her daughter needs to be able to be strapped in. I tell her the booster seats do have straps, but they would only work on a normal table. She doesn't want to move, so they stay with the high chair. Then she asks me if we have baby appetizers. I respond confused and tell her no, we do have a kids menu and size of fruit and vegetables. This answer displeases her quite a bit and she says, "You really don't have baby appetizers? I need something bland and plain for my baby." I repeat the answer and the bread they asked for arrives. She tells me to go away, and I leave. I'm pretty frustrated at this point because she is making absolutely no sense. I work in an upscale sports bar that is not the type of place that caters that hard to children. The biggest thing we are known for is a very large selection of draft beers. I come back to take their order and refill their waters. While I'm taking the order, a toddler puts its hand in the water pitcher and the mother looks at me and smirks. Both of the women order one item to share with their children. The older one gets fish and chips, and the younger one gets pineapple chicken with rice. They both ask for separate plates so they can share. As I bring the food out and separate plates, giving the older woman her food first and setting the extra plate in front of the boy, I set down the younger woman's food and go to put the second plate in front of her as well, and she turns to me and says, "Oh my God, what is wrong with you? Don't you know babies can't have glass plates? They will throw them. Don't you have plastic plates?" I'm taken aback by this outburst and have to stop myself from being unprofessional and responding that we have to-go boxes if she would like something plastic, but we do not have plastic plates. She gets very frustrated and says, "Absolutely not." She grabs one of the small round plates used for bread and says, "This will be fine for my baby." I walk away even more confused and frustrated because we use ceramic plates. The one I brought was a large, heavy ceramic plate, and the one she decided to use was a small, light ceramic plate. If she was so worried about her monster child trying to throw the plate, the large one would have been much harder. I check back on them a few times, and as they slow down on eating, I ask them if they would like boxes. They tell me no and ask for the check. I give them the check and walk over to one of my other tables. While I am taking the order at the other table, they wave down another server and tell the server that they need boxes. I see this happen and walk over to the other server to ask what was wrong. I go to get the boxes for them, and as I'm walking back to the table, boxes in hand, they have already waved down the second server that they are asking for boxes. This took about 1 minute. They seemed shocked to see me with the boxes. They left and, of course, tipped me nothing. I was honestly just so glad to have them gone. 2. I, 19 male, am a manager at a food trailer that serves burgers, fries, shakes, and stuff like that. It's a pretty decently sized trailer. It's literally a renovated shipping container. And to run a shift, we'll usually need at least the manager on duty plus 2 people, so that we don't have to shut off online orders. DoorDash, all that stuff. And we can still take all the people that come in to order in person. One person usually does cashier and shakes, other on salad and make, and a third on cook and fry. A couple months ago, I had to run a shift completely solo after my coworkers called out. I've had to do it a few times, obviously. I don't love it, but to be honest, I don't mind it all that much, since it gives me an excuse to turn off online orders and work at my own pace. I still go fast, obviously, but there's a simplicity I like, being able to do everything myself and just vibe to my music while I do it. As soon as I knew I was going to be solo for the rest of the night, I turned off online orders, as it had been a pretty busy day so far, and didn't want to risk things getting suddenly busy with in-person orders, as it often does get very busy very fast out there. I also do not do shakes when I have to run the trailer solo, as it's just too much of a time consumer, and this was before it was super hot too, so I wasn't getting too many shakes a day anyway. I finally have a minute to breathe after on those damn sudden rushes, when a woman comes up and starts ordering. One of those no hello, start making my food type of people. I take her order, 2 burgers and 2 fries, and at the end of it she asks for 2 shakes. The conversation went roughly as follows. I'm sorry, ma'am, but actually since I'm out here alone right now, I'm not doing shakes. Well, I'm the only one here right now. Can't you make them for me? I'm sorry, ma'am, but I haven't been doing shakes for anyone as long as I've been here solo. And things tend to get very busy very fast, so I don't do shakes in case things pick up suddenly. Well, that's fucking ridiculous. I'm gonna have to call my husband and see if he even wants the food since you won't make our shakes. Okay, ma'am. She proceeds to spend about 1.5 minutes on the phone with her husband or whoever. She then gets off the phone and angrily hands me her card and says, I guess we'll get it. With a dirty look. Okay, ma'am. I start putting in her order to the tablet and ring her up and she says, this is just fucking ridiculous. I'm having the worst day. I tried placing an order online all weekend and now I drag myself out here and don't get my fucking shakes. Yes, ma'am, we've been having issues with the internet and weren't able to get it fixed until today, but I turned it off when I was left here alone. Whatever, just get started on our food, I guess. I turn and start making everything, put the burgers up in the smelter, and as I'm making her food, she cranes her head in through the other window and asks, how long have those patties been sitting there? I took them off about 10 minutes ago, ma'am. I guess that's fine. I finish her order and put it on the plate and say that it's ready and to have a good one. Jesus, she needed it. She grabs it and angrily walks off. I seriously have not had a more obscenely negative interaction in the 3 years I've worked in food. And I've also never seen a grown woman throw a fit over milkshakes. And the fact that I'm 19 and running an entire truck on my own, and you have zero empathy for the fact. Jesus. I didn't have one other person complain about having to wait an extra minute since I was running everything myself. But other than that interaction, I got those pity tips, so it was a pretty solid shift. 3. By far, my worst experience as a server was my first job. I was working for a big chain restaurant in the northeast for a location that was just off the highway. We were incredibly understaffed, and it was my second week on the job. I'm supposed to get off at 8:30, and it's around 8. I have a family of 4 that's finishing up, and I ask the kids if they'd like an ice cream sandwich for dessert as kids' meals come with them. Kids, of course, take me up in the offer. I chat a bit with the parents, very kind people, and go off to locate the ice cream sandwiches. I had not previously been shown where they were kept. I ask another waitress if she can show me where they are. She brings me downstairs into a walk-in cooler, and within the walk-in is another walk-in freezer. So, freezer within a cooler, several layers of thick metal. Fellow waitress brings me in the freezer, points to ice cream sandwiches, and turns and closes the door. I try to open the door, but it does not open. I bang on the door and call for fellow waitress to no avail. Emergency button for the door is broken. No cameras in the walk-in freezer. No signal on my phone. I'm in jeans and a t-shirt, inside of a freezer, inside of a cooler for 35 to 40 minutes, and not one person looked for me. Worst part, there were 2 managers in-house the entire time. Eventually, I was able to stack a bunch of frozen items to get enough Wi-Fi signal and text a coworker until they finally came down to find me purple and sobbing, and having completely lost my voice from screaming so hard for so long. When I came back upstairs, my manager initially reacted with anger, saying that I had been sat 4 more times, but quickly realized the state I was in and became confused. I found out they assumed I had gotten too stressed and taken off 30 minutes before my shift ended. I pointed out that all of my things were still in the building and my car was parked directly outside. My manager came with me to apologize to the family that had been waiting for so long for the ice cream sandwiches. They saw my discolored skin and heard my voice and asked what had happened. I explained that there had been an accident with the freezer door, and they were mortified. They looked at my manager and essentially demanded that I be let off with pay for the rest of the night, if not the week. She laughed a bit and agreed that was what should happen. The family left after, and she kept me working until 11. So after being locked in a freezer, instead of leaving at 8:30, I was made to close because I had cost the company money by being missing for so long, and that causing trouble for the other servers. In hindsight, I should have quit the moment she told me I wasn't going home, but I did end up calling OSHA to make sure the door was repaired and quit pretty soon after. My voice was totally gone for the next month from all this screaming. I still waitress and bartend, but my bosses now are far kinder people. Yes, kind bosses in the service industry are out there. They just normally have working emergency buttons. 4. So it's a pretty busy brunch shift on a cloudy Sunday. A group of 4 walks in. Instead of sitting at the table and waiting less than 30 seconds for their server, one of the girls from the group decides to walk up to the pass and ask the head chef about what pastries we have. The style of the restaurant is upscale dining. Now, I don't know how it goes for you guys, but we don't generally have customers demand things at the pass from the head chef, as he is plating a 6 tops entrees. I should mention that I barely ask the kitchen staff for anything, let alone during a very busy shift with orders backing up. Nevertheless, the chef kindly explains the pastries available for the day to this inbred, while I am at the table watering and taking drink orders from the 3 others at her table, while she decides she's too good to wait and find out what fucking muffin is available today. Not bad so far, could be worse. I'm not that mad about it. I'll just try to run away before the chef finds out they were from my section. I would understand if I had not approached the table in over 3 minutes, but come on, you just got here. Wait for your damn server. Well, Her Highness eventually returned from her carefree adventure to the pass. As she gets seated, instantly asks for a blueberry muffin. She misheard that we have a blueberry muffin, whereas it's actually a blueberry scone. But this chimp decides that she knows more than the guy who works there and insists that I ask the kitchen about what fucking muffin with red fruit on top is right there on the pastry stand. From here on out, I decided to talk to her as if she had the IQ of a door handle. Would you be annoyed at this kind of shit? Is it acceptable for customers to approach the pass and ask chefs questions instead of their server? After 2 years of doing this was the first time this happened, and I was just really annoyed at the "I am right, you're wrong" shit. To top it off, she asks for the check at the end and decides to cover the whole bill, and decides not to leave a tip. Her friend sees this and stops her before she whips her card out and asks to redo the tip selection process and leaves me an 18% tip instead, and pays with his own credit card. 5. About 5 years ago, I worked at a family-owned Italian-style chain restaurant that specialized in wood oven pizzas. It started off badly, but just kept getting worse. I ended up quitting 1 month after becoming bar manager, only to be asked back to work at a different location, and be fired within a week for things completely out of my control. My guess is that they wanted some petty revenge for me quitting the first location. I was responsible for a lot of things there. So here are a few stories. Content warning for mention of sexual assault. We started off with 10% kitchen tip-outs. The head management changed the kitchen tip-out to 15% for total sales, meaning if you did not make 16% and up in tips from each table, you would literally be paying to work. I spoke to some people in the kitchen about how much they make off of us, and they were pretty confused. About a year into me working there, I learned that the kitchen only gets about 1% of the server's sales. Everything else we were putting into the envelope went straight to management. They stopped giving us pay stubs, and soon afterwards all of us noticed that our pay wasn't what it used to be. We started off with 50% discounted staff meals. Head management changed it to 25% off, then again to 15% off. We didn't get paid for overtime, ever. If we told management this was illegal, they would laugh in our face and tell us that if we went to the labor board, then they would make sure we never get another job in the industry again. This is again illegal and called reprisal, and is against the Employment Standards Act in my province. They got away with it because we were all young and didn't know our rights. I was working 70 to 80-hour weeks. Yes, I worked about 12 hours every single day. If the table complained online about anything other than service, you were required to buy them a $40 gift card out of your pocket. If a table complained online about service, you were immediately fired with no notice. Highest turnover rate I ever had in my life. They fired people for just about anything. My best examples are one girl that was fired when she gave 2 months' notice that she wanted Christmas Day off to see her mother. They wanted everybody to work that day and she refused, since she already bought her plane ticket. Fired. A guy who was just hired behind bar and had tons of experience. The manager asked him to make her his favorite cocktail to make. He made it, and she fired him for serving staff alcohol during service. Yeah, you heard that right. If the kitchen made a mistake on a food item, then you were expected to pay for it. If the table didn't like a particular food item, then you were expected to pay for it. You were not allowed to book time off, ever, no matter how long in advance. When the head management found out that any one of the owners were to show up at the location that day, they would force staff to literally get on their hands and knees and scrub the floor from wall to wall. Not even kidding. Mop? Unacceptable. You had to do it on your hands and knees and scrub. The father of the family that owned the place was so entitled that he would try to get you fired if you didn't know who he was, even if you just started and never saw him before. They forced me to come in and train 2 people at once behind the bar after I called in sick and found somebody to cover me. I spent the previous night in hospital and then at the police station until I finally got back home in the morning, just before I had to leave for my shift. I showed up with a black eye and bruises all around my neck, barely able to move, and they reprimanded me for not being put together and cheerful for guests. The fact that I got raped and beaten turned into a running joke with one of my managers. He took the man's side and accused me of lying about the whole thing, because he used to be friends with the guy. There are so many more stories, but I just can't think of them all right now. The owners were absolutely awful people that treated every one of their employees like garbage. The head managers for the main location I worked at were just as bad. I honestly wish I was joking about all that, but I know I still didn't get all of it down here. And no, I can't try litigation because I'm well beyond the limitation period. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Spinning Plates, episode 179. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. If you enjoyed the video, then please do hit the like button before you leave. Okay, we're on Saturday now, right? Right, now if you're listening to this on the Saturday it goes up, we will possibly have a gaming stream later. We'll continue with Sherlock Holmes. And there's another new game I bought on sale. If enough people show up for that, we might try that one, see how it goes. If I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling a little iffy right now, but hopefully that passes. I think I might have just overexerted myself yesterday. On the plus side, the cupboard under the stairs that was neat and tidied is completely tidied, so that's good. But we'll see. Fingers crossed. Right, now before we go, let's move along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And that question is, favorite horror movie character? Mine is Jason Voorhees from the Friday the 13th films, and with the exception of Freddy vs. Jason and Part 5, and you all know why. If you've seen it, you know why. I've yet to find an actor playing Jason I've disliked. Personally, I don't think the guy in Freddy vs. Jason was quite as enthusiastic as he could have been. And, well, obviously, Part 5, it wasn't the actor that was the problem there, it was actually the plot that was the problem with that one. And, well, you know why. I won't ruin it for anyone who might want to watch it, but you know why. So, who are some of your favourite horror movie characters? They don't have to be the villain, they could be the hero. Leave your answer in a comment below. Okay, and with that, we're going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.